Charlie Christian's Flying Home solo from October 1939 is a great example of his approach to soloing. I'd say it's a great one for you to learn from, as his phrasing is so clear and the song has very simple changes. In this video, I'll share with you 3 things that I think every jazz guitar player can learn from Charlie's solo. It oozes confidence and to me sounds very deliberate. This recording is very early on in Charlie's career with Benny Goodman. He auditioned in August of 1939 and this solo is taken from a recording of the same year in October. Now the song is very often credited to Benny Goodman and Lionel Hampton, but it's widely thought that the theme is actually Charlie's composition. We'll never know for sure, but to me the melody comes across as something you could imagine Charlie writing. Firstly, let me play it for you. You can get the PDF of my transcription on the lowest tier of my Patreon page, link in the description. Now I've made a video over on Patreon where I also do a slower performance of that and I talk through the solo in detail. Now the first thing that strikes me about his solo is that his phrases are super strong and relatively simple in terms of the harmony. Now the standard changes for the A section in this song feature this descending 5-chord move. So E flat 6 9, then with the 7th in the bass, C minor 7, B7, B flat 7. 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. Now it would be very easy to hear that or see it written down and think way too much about all those chords. It's not what Charlie's doing. And Charlie is just treating this whole section as if it's all in E flat, just thinking it's like the 1 chord. To me it sounds like the opening to a 12-bar blues. And hearing it like this, thinking like this also, is very liberating. And his opening A section has a great bluesy quality. In terms of intervals, he's heavily using the root, flat 3, 3, 5th, 6th and flat 7, with occasional use of the 9th and the 4th. Using this E flat here to visualize those intervals. Root, flat 3, 3, 5, 6, 7. All hanging around the triad, really. 1 3 5. I can't really comprehend that Charlie was thinking in scales. I don't believe that, but more contemporary guitar players or guitar terms you could use to think about that in some sort of hybrid scale is a combination of the major pentatonic, the blues scale and the mixolydian. My personal way to approach thinking this is thinking of it as the triad plus other colours. And that 1 3 5 plus a heavy use of the flat 3 and also the flat 7 help create that bluesy feel. But the confidence and conviction I was talking about earlier in these phrases lies in the fact that he resolves to his phrases at the end to notes of the E flat triad. So it screams E flat. Now this is a crucial thing to learn. When you're playing over chord changes, your last note of a phrase will either make it sink or soar. For instance, if I take one of his ideas and go to a more dissonant note, like a 4th, it might sound like this. Say if I take this idea, change the last note to a 4th. You probably hear that your ear wants to hear it go either down to the 3rd or back up to the 5th. Not wrong, but it feels unfinished. It doesn't make as much sense, and his finishing on a note of the triad to me is just like good punctuation. And it helps take the listener with him to the next phrase and creates a well-structured solo. So I'd encourage you to practice that. Try creating ideas over the A section, but try resolving to the root 3rd and 5th of E flat. Charlie's use of the triad doesn't stop there. I love the way that he sometimes uses the triad in its full form as a springboard at the start of a phrase. Take bar 11. There's a triad here, and it starts the idea off so nicely, the triad, and naturally the triad lends itself to being played as a triplet. Note also how that idea comes in on beat 2, and you'll notice another feature of his playing is strong rhythmic command and an ability to start his phrases within different points in the bar. He's well and truly in command of both pitch and rhythm. Bar 25, we have the same thing, a triplet coming in on beat 2, this time using an E-flat triad using the familiar D chord shape, resolving to the 5th with a cool super strong rhythm to finish it off. Not only does he use the triad as a springboard at the start of a phrase, sometimes he will use it at the end of a phrase to sign it off, like here in bar 8. It's very much like full stop to that idea, move on to the next. One of my favourite aspects of his playing has always been the way he leads the listener through the form of a song. This tune is in AABA form, and Charlie was one of the best for playing to the form of the song and telling a story over it and with it. This solo is no different. Structurally, we have A sections which are very much, his soloing is very much phrases. There's a phrase, there's a gap, and then it opens the door to the next phrase in a kind of call and response way. And that all feels very logical and pleasing to listen to. But the B section is very different, and he fills the space, and for me he really goes for it. Goes for more continuous 8th note lines. Now this to me makes the B section feel different to the A section. What I mean by playing to the form. It's also good for his fellow musicians as it's clear where he is in the form. Not that anyone has ever got lost in the form of a song. I love the way he leads us into this B section with this E flat on the and, which really helps us step into that B section so nicely. There's also this wonderful anticipation of the F7 chord by half a bar, coming in a bit early for it. He's almost one step ahead of the band, and it creates this sense of forward momentum, leading the listener to the next chord. And the skill you can work on here is anticipating chord changes. And again, take that concept and try and practice it in your own playing. It's a step on from what I've been covering in my series of making the changes, but essentially you're playing an arpeggio or a line melody based on the next chord just before it comes in. Works particularly well with dominant chords. Now if you'd like to learn more about this solo in detail, then over on my Patreon page I have it played at slower speed, and I go through the solo bar by bar, breaking it down for you and what I think you can learn from it and take into your own playing. For me, the aim isn't necessarily to be able to say play his solo at full speed. That's a nice thing to be able to do. I think from that you'll internalise his rhythms, some of his phrasing will rub off on you definitely, but the key thing is what can you learn from him and imitate in your own playing. And most importantly, be creative and do your own thing with the concepts. That can only take place if you understand his lines though. You don't want to be in a position where you're just playing it parrot fashion. You want to understand rhythmically why ideas work and also what the intervals are. When it comes to improvising, I'd always encourage you to ensure that you know the melody and changes to a tune, ideally off by heart. Flying Home is a great song to have in your repertoire. I've made a video on the chord changes to that already, and you can watch that here. Or if you want another solo, please check out my video on his Rose Room solo. Either way, thank you so much for tuning in. Please leave a comment if you've enjoyed today's video. Don't forget jazz guitar lessons every Wednesday. Until next time, you take care.